Slightly inspired.
Hi everyone, Justin here from Twintech, and today I'll be showing you our upgraded Optiplex 990 build that we use for gaming, editing and productivity. I'll go over what we've upgraded, how we did it, and its performance in 2020. Let's get started. So first off, let's talk about the stock specs. This Optiplex 990 Mini Tower, or MT, came stock with an Intel Core i7-2600, 4GB of DDR3 RAM, a 260W power supply, a 256GB hard drive, and no dedicated GPU at all. You could hardly run any games with its integrated 32MB of VRAM, and the hard drive was pretty slow. Boot up times took anywhere from over a minute to 5 minutes. It also came with a CD drive, but we never used that. So what parts did we use to upgrade it, while staying below $400 in total? Well, first off, we knew we weren't going to have a chance using a powerful dedicated GPU with a stock PSU, so we opted for a $50 700W EVGA non-modular power supply from Gumtree. We got it in perfect working order with no damage or faults. It took around 5 minutes to install, it was quite simple and easy. The next thing we upgraded was the CPU cooler. The CPU temps itself, whilst on standby and gaming, were relatively fine, but this cooler was really loud. Even when browsing through Chrome or Edge, this thing sounded like it was on full blast, and there weren't any options in the BIOS or through any software to change the fan speed or fan curve. Because this was a cramped system due to our new non-modular PSU, we went with the Noctua NHL Tour S, a mid-range low-profile cooler that we once again bought off Gumtree for $75. However, there was a problem. These Dell Optiplexes use special fan header connections that didn't support our Noctua cooler. What we had to do was buy this 5-pin to 4-pin adapter for $20 off eBay. Once that came, we could install the new cooler. We took the old cooler out, unscrewed the motherboard screws, installed the Noctua cooler backplate, then the screws and standoffs, and then finally the cooler itself. We mounted the fan in high profile mode, so that it would allow for better temps and better RAM clearance. We also replaced the old crusty thermal paste with the included Noctua one. And if you're enjoying the video, please hit that subscribe button, it would mean a lot. After all that was set up and running, we looked at our options for GPUs. We actually went through 2 or 3 before we settled on one. We initially did some research on how big of a GPU we could fit into our system, but we couldn't find a definitive answer, so we did some testing. First, we bought a GT 1030, and that fitted fine, no problems. Then we bought a Zotac 1050 Ti, a double slot GPU, and that fitted fine as well. Then we decided to take a risk. We bought a Gigabyte RX 570. This thing was bulky and long compared to the previous two. Measuring 23cm, it just fitted, as shown here. However, we did encounter some problems installing it. Our regular straight SATA cables were stopping the GPU from slotting in properly, so to fix this, I swapped out the straight SATA cables for right angle ones, and that managed to fix it. We installed the drivers, and we've been using it for the past month or so now. If you are looking at getting a longer GPU, like the RX 580, you can most likely make it fit if you first remove the hard drive cage, which will require some modding to the case itself. Okay, so with the PSU and the GPU out of the way, we looked at our storage. There's no way we were going to be able to install any games onto this machine with this measly 256GB mechanical hard drive. So we looked for some cheap options and we settled on these. A 1TB WD hard drive for storage, as well as a Kingston 240GB SSD just for boot. We didn't have any hard drive caddies on hand unfortunately, so as you can see here, the hard drive is sitting on the case and the SSD on top of that. It's all fine though, as there's no stress on any of the connectors or the cables. As expected, boot times were pretty much cut down to less than a minute with the SSD, and with more storage, we could finally start downloading and installing some games. Lastly, the RAM. 4GB just doesn't cut it, especially nowadays. For what we were doing, gaming, video editing and multitasking, we needed to upgrade to at least 8GB of RAM. So, what we did was add 2 more 1333 2GB sticks for pretty cheap at just $30. I have been trying to look for 4 4GB sticks totaling 16GB, but right now RAM prices aren't the lowest, so we'll wait it out to another time. We didn't feel the need to upgrade anything else like a CPU or add any extra fans. The speed difference between an i7-2600 and a 3770 isn't huge, and regarding the fans, the temperatures are actually very good, especially considering our cable management skills or lack thereof. Hey guys, it's Chris here to talk about the games. So now that our PC has been upgraded and modernized, let's take a look at how it performs in terms of frame rates. Apologies for the recording quality first up, we used our phone to record. This is because we don't have a capture card of any kind and we didn't want to blotch our results by using our screen recording program. First up, a standard benchmark game, GTA 5. I ran the in-game benchmark and playing at very high graphics at 1080p with anti-aliasing levels on, achieved on average between 70 and 110 FPS. This is definitely very playable and stutter was non-existent. Next, NBA 2K21. We once again turned the graphics to high at 1080p and achieved consistently around 80 to 100 FPS. There was no stutter to be seen. Not too bad so far. Now, Moves Edge Catalyst. We ran the game on high settings and the Optiplex handled the game well, averaging 55 FPS or so, with dips down to 45 in very rare occasions and going up to 75 or so in enclosed areas. The game looks stunning. I was surprised a bit on how well the PC was doing. Let's try Ubisoft's Watchdogs 2. I played the first one a while back and that ran over 80 FPS with no stutters on ultra high graphics. Well, Watchdogs 2 on medium high settings ran at an average of 60 FPS in most areas. It did drop a few times here and there, especially in crowded environments. It topped out at 80 or so in some of the smaller buildings. Considering the road size and density, I would say that the Optiplex performed pretty well here. Lastly, Forza Horizon 3. While this isn't too recent of a game, the system requirements are still pretty high. Graphics settings were on the high preset, VSync off and at 1080p. FPS averaged 93 FPS, with highs at around the 105 mark, and the lowest tipping into the 80 to 85 region. I did have some weird stuttering issues when I first started playing the game, but since then, it has now completely disappeared. Back to Justin. So how much did we end up spending in total? We got the PC itself for free, but you can find many office workstations on Gumtree or on your local marketplace for really cheap, like below 300 Aussie dollars. The cost of the new PSU was $50, the CPU cooler was $75, the GPU was $175. The drives altogether were $50 and the RAM was $40. This brings us to a total of 390 Aussie or 280 US, excluding the PC. If we did count the PC, the cost would be around the 500 Aussie mark. This is about 360 US. PC parts are generally a lot cheaper in the US compared to other countries, so of course your mileage might vary. Buying second-hand parts can sometimes save you a lot of money, whilst other times it can be a total scam and you end up wasting a lot of your money and time. Okay, so that'll wrap it up for the video. If you have any questions about this video or our PC, hit us up through our Instagram link down below or in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, give us a like and subscribe. Thanks guys for watching, this is Justin signing out.